Good afternoon. I'm Bill Gravel, Williamson County Judge. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. We do want to give an update on the San Gabriel Fire. First, I want to talk a little bit about what I've been a part of today and what I've seen today. And then we're going to hear from the Texas Forestry Service and the resources they've brought to bear, as well as the Fire Marshal here from Liberty Hill. Today I had the opportunity to fly on DPS-1, and I want to thank Governor Abbott for that. We were able to fly overhead to see the damaged area, the land that's been burnt. And actually, when we were flying on DPS-1, we saw a fire flare up and begin. And so I just would remind all of our residents, you're going to discover this fire's not completely out and that it just takes some time. We've literally got men that are working on what I would call a cliff face of 30 to 60 feet high, fighting a fire by hand. And so I'm still grateful for the men and women that are out there. A couple of observations from flying today. Number one, this story would be completely different if we didn't have the firefighters and Texas A&M Forestry Service here. The terrain that it was in, if we would not have had the manpower, and I believe more importantly the planes flying, we would have seen perhaps thousands of acres and properties, multiple properties destroyed. Very grateful to the Forestry Service. I called it the Air Cavalry, the 9 different fixed wing planes and 2 helicopters. If you could see it from there, you would see that Lake Georgetown literally is probably 300 yards from where most of the fire is or has been, and they would literally dive in, scoop up, fill it with water, dump, and within a matter of a minute be circling back to refill their planes with water. So grateful to the governor for the resources that he's sent this way. A couple of things I want to remind our residents of. Listen, we need to be thoughtful and considerate. We're in the hottest, driest times we've seen here in our region, and if you're not wise or careful, you could cost yourself and your family everything, and you could cost your neighbor everything. I'm not an expert on cost on fires, but I can tell you this: between the local resources that we've had, the air resources that we've had, and the crews that have come in from across the country, I could see where this would easily be $1 million price tag to fight this fire. I do want to say a special thank you to the Forestry Service. There's some hotshot teams that came in today from Florida, I believe Wisconsin, and another state, and we're grateful that they're here helping us. But I would just remind you, it was the Liberty Hill Fire Department that took command of this in the very beginning and did an amazing job. And we're really grateful for the hard work locally. In fact, the fire marshal that's here, he was here the first time, the very first briefing, and he's still here today, guys. He hadn't been home. And this is what your local firefighters do. They work days on end to protect life and property, so we're grateful for that. So I think at this time we're going to hear from the Forestry Service and more specifics on the area and the damage.
Thank you, Judge. Walter Flockey, F-L-O-C-K-E, Public Information Officer with Texas A&M Forest Service, providing an update on the current status of the San Gabriel Fire. Currently, the fire has been mapped at 451 acres. That's a reduction from the estimate of 500 acres due to better mapping with GPS. The fire containment has increased to 90% as of 1300 today. That percent containment means that the incident commander is now sure that 90% of those containment lines constructed by our dozer crews and our hand crews will be able to hold and not have any fire escape outside of those lines. Forward progression of the fire has been stopped at this time, so there is no current outward expansion of the fire perimeter, and we are again at 90% containment. So over the next 24 hours to possibly days, crews are going to continue to remain on this fire, watching for any heat, watching for any smoke, and mitigating any of those hot spots when they find them with water and with hand tools. So expect this fire to remain active at least for a couple more days probably, and expect fire crews to be in the area, and expect to see smoke over the fire area as we are seeing hot spots pop up interior within the fire perimeter. On Saturday, at the time of the fire start, 65 homes were evacuated in the area. Those evacuation orders were lifted on Saturday evening, and all of those residents are back at home now. We've had aviation resources be very helpful in this fire. Just to name some, we've had 3 single-engine air tankers used for dropping water, 5 large air tankers and 2 very large air tankers, which were pre-positioned at Austin International Airport. They were very helpful in putting retardant on this fire. Helicopter crews, as well as Travis County Star Flight's helicopter crews, were very helpful in putting water on hotspots on this fire. Currently today we have 5 bulldozer crews that are on scene, as well as local resources here still from Liberty Hill, a strike team of fire engines from the Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System, so crews from around the state that were pre-positioned here, as well as the hot shot crew, the Mount Taylor Hot Shots, are also on scene. Currently, today we are still listing the cause as under investigation. The fire marshal will give an update on that as well. Some conditions around the state, just to give an update. Since January 1st, the Texas A&M Forest Service and local fire departments have responded to 6,919 wildfires for a total of 598,224 acres across the state as of today. Over the past 7 days, the Texas A&M Forest Service has responded with local fire departments to 203 wildfires for 21,043 acres. For a public safety announcement, we'd like to just say that the fuels, the vegetation in this area is critically dry. It's the driest we've seen in a very long time. And what that means is that any spark has the potential to start a wildfire, and any wildfire that starts has the potential to turn into a multi-day incident such as this one, just because the conditions are so dry. Even larger diameter trees like our junipers and oaks are so dry that they can sustain combustion. So that means that crews are having a harder time containing these fires, and it's taking longer to reach that 100% containment. So we really need folks to be incredibly careful with anything that could cause a spark. Common everyday things that we might not think of in normal years: driving and parking in tall grass, welding, sawing, trailer chains dragging, anything like that, equipment use. We need to be incredibly cautious. Lawn mowing, anything like that that can create a spark or produce enough heat to generate a fire. We need to be use excessive caution and not do those things, especially during the afternoon, during these hours when the heat is so high, and with this chronic drought we're having, the fuels are just so dry that it could create a fire that's hard for our crews to control. I'll turn it over now to Liberty County, or excuse me, not Liberty County, Liberty Hill Fire Marshal.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michael Dickens, the Liberty Hill Fire Marshal. It's MICHAELDICKENS. I would just like to thank all the resources that came out and helped us, all the neighboring departments, the Texas A&M Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I would especially like to thank Judge Grabell for the support and everything that he's given us, and the Office of Emergency Management for all of their support. Like we stated earlier, the fire's 90% contained at this time. The forward progression on it has stopped. We still have crews in there actively fighting fire, so there is still active fire within the contained area. Residents will see smoke, everything like that, but don't be alarmed by it. We know it's there. Don't worry about calling 911 and reporting it. We are aware of it, and we're actively trying to extinguish it at this time, which we'll be doing for several days. Just like stated earlier, just please be cautious on anything that's done outside, as far as welding, grinding, cutting hay, anything that could emit any type of spark or anything, because as you could tell, it does not take long for these fires to spread rapidly in our dry conditions.
I also want to say a special thank you to the Army Corps of Engineers. They did an amazing job of shutting down Lake Georgetown to public access so that these planes could reload on the lake. And so it really is a team effort when there is a large situation. We'll take a few questions at this time, but just remember it's incredibly hot out here, and we'll stay as long as we're willing to bear it and you're willing to bear it.
Judge, are you going to call for any additional restrictions?
You know, that's a great question. I went back and I looked at the burn ban that's in place here in Williamson County, and there are restrictions already included with the initial burn ban. For example, if you're welding outside, that you must have someone observing. You must also wet the ground down and have water available. So we have the restrictions in place. I just really want to encourage our residents. On occasion, fires start naturally, but most fires are started by people and their actions. And this has cost a great deal of resources and put hundreds of lives at risk. And so I just really want to encourage our residents, be wise. Look, there is no reason in this current climate to be welding outside, using a grinder outside, or even a burn pile, or even a burn pit at night with a cup of coffee. It's just, there's no reason during this environment to be doing that.
I know you mentioned a lot of the houses were already, the people that were evacuated, they came back, at least the ones from Saturday. Is there any radius right now that people should be concerned, any area they should avoid, or any other houses that are going to be evacuated soon, depending on how this goes?
Yeah, so what I can say is this, is our fire department did an amazing job, along with our sheriff's department and several law enforcement agencies, to get the residents out of harm's way. But at this point, it's safe. Our residents have returned. And I would remind all of you that this was a major fire in the middle of a largely populated area. And you have to understand there's been no reported loss of life, human or animal, and no reported damaged homes. So we're really thankful. But I've got to tell you, flying from DPS 1, and when you can see that you're just 300 or 400 yards from several subdivisions in Georgetown and 300 to 400 yards from Santa Rita Ranch, we were fortunate. But we were fortunate because of good firefighters and great pilots. Last question, and I'm hot.
Now, it wasn't very windy at all. That helped not spread the fire, right? If it had been windy like it is a lot of times, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. And let me, to your point, that day the wind was blowing north. That day, if the wind would have been blowing south, I'm telling you, there would have been millions upon millions of dollars in damage in Santa Rita Ranch. I think by God's grace, the wind was blowing in the right way. We had firefighters on the ground, and we had, you know, I call them spruce gooses coming in, filling up and dumping. But it took a family and a village to save some communities. All right, thank y'all very much. Thanks for sweating out here with us too.
Thanks for sticking with us here on KXAN Live as we've continued to bring you that news conference from Williamson County, where fire officials and county leaders are sharing that the wildfire burning near Liberty Hill is now 90% contained. It burned more than 490 acres, a little bit less than what was initially reported out there this weekend. That fire started on Saturday and led to the evacuation of about 65 homes. However, those evacuation orders have been lifted and people have been able to go back to their homes since Saturday evening. We wanted to just share that number. For anybody who lives out in that area in Liberty Hill, this is near Tower Road in Lake Georgetown. There will be smoke visible at least for the next couple of days according to the fire officials there, because there are some areas within the containment that remain on fire. So trees that may burn a little bit more or certain grasses. However, they assure people in that community that fire crews are going to remain on the scene from multiple different departments, going to any hot spots or flare-ups that pop up in the next few days. So they just wanted to send a warning out to people that they may see smoke still from that area, but crews are monitoring that. More information about this fire and the response is available on our website, kxan.com. Thank you all for watching here this afternoon. I'm Will Dupree in the KXAN Live studio. We'll see you back here at another time, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy out there, and take care.